Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I'm Siddharth Zarabi, and with me now a very special guest, Ganapathy Subramaniam, the COO and ED of TCS, India's largest IT company. Morning and welcome. Even as we are discussing what seems to have been a slowest start, one of the slowest starts to a fiscal year. How has the quarter been? Take us through some of the highlight numbers, Mr. Subramaniam.
I agree. It's one of the slowest starts we have had in several years as a Q1. But then, given the recessionary trends and the macroeconomic situation that everyone is talking about, we are pretty pleased with what we accomplished during the last 90 days. Um, the order book of $10.2 billion on top of the $10 billion that we made in the previous quarter shows that we stay relevant, our offerings are well accepted in the market, and revenue came flat sequentially, while on a constant currency basis, we grew by 7% year on year. We completed the performance appraisal of all our employees, 600,000 of them, and we have completed the annual increment process effective 1st of April. That's again a big accomplishment for us. And overall, I think we have met with a lot of our customers. The demand environment is a little, cautionary from some of our clients. But overall, we're happy where we are, and the kind of work that we do, the kind of projects that we have won, it all stands good. And we couldn't have been in a better place given the current situation.
Since you mentioned the current situation, what exactly has led to this softness in demand? Certain sectors, including banking and financial services, for example, where clients seem to be either uncertain or pulling back. Provide some detail of where that softness is really emanating from.
The first is the banking crisis that happened in the previous quarter. I think it's kind of subsided, I should say, and somewhere in the middle of the quarter, I think they all got a handle of what happened in a couple of institutions in North America and Europe. I think that kind of eased out. But then the recessionary trends is the kind of difficult because, while everybody is talking about recession, the government themselves and many governments are looking at slowing down the pace at which the economy and the indicators are doing. But at the same time, when there is a recession, having an unemployment at an all-time low is quite unusual, right? So you really look at some of these factors, and one has to really calibrate this is why this is happening. And still, if you take Europe as a market, it's quite uncertain because the war is persisting, and the recessionary previously, last winter, we were all worried about how Europe will cope up with it, but now the next winter is probably around the corner pretty soon. So, we just have to wait and see how Europe is going to react. The UK is doing well, but overall, I think given some of these situations, the customers are expecting that, look, is it better to be a little cautious, is the first one from an economic perspective. The second is from a technology perspective, there is a lot of things at play. One is the cloud itself. The consumption on the cloud is just increasing and exploding, right? The consumption costs are probably, getting higher and higher every quarter. And because the consumption is also increasing, and which essentially means that in some of our customers, what they thought that they will have the cost as in the fifth year, probably now hitting the cost even the third year, then what does it mean to their return on investments, those kind of situations. Thirdly, the whole generative AI is a absolutely, phenomenal technology and offering great potential. The initial hype around it is very, very interesting. Then the customers also want to know whether we are doing the right thing or architecturally, while we are all embraced digital technologies, intelligence, automation, and AI, ML, all of that, the predictive capability of generative AI, is it something that is going to impact whatever I have done so far, or is it a minor tweak? What kind of architectural interventions that I have to do so that my architecture and the investment that we are making already is future proof? See, if you look at all these factors put together, it's only understandable that you step back and see what I'm doing, what is it that I should do, reset the path and take course corrective measures um, as appropriate. And that's the overarching situation, Siddharth.
Okay. Given what is happening and the likelihood that this softness is perhaps going to persist, so two parts to my question. What is the outlook as far as demand is concerned? And therefore, do you see a double-digit growth happening in the remaining quarters and for the full year?
Now, there are segments in which we have done well. I think for us, manufacturing is looking good, life sciences, healthcare is looking good. Our regional markets and platforms business are really have done well, over a year-on-year basis. So there are businesses which are and markets which are growing on double digits. But as a company, given the growth that we have seen in Q1, the double-digit growth for the whole year is something that we have to wait and watch. It looks a little difficult, but we have to wait and see how the current quarter, the Q2, pans out. And then if there is a momentum that picks up in Q2, Q3, Q4, maybe we'll go and have a reasonable shot at it. But to me, the double-digit growth on for the whole company across our portfolios seems a bit tall order at this point in time.
Uh, from your answer just now, the question that comes to mind is, do you see the worst being behind you as a company?
I think, see, it's a mixed bag right now. I think, there are opportunities that we see, right? Especially vendor consolidation is happening, cost and optimization kind of opportunities or efficiency focus opportunities are there. These are things that they want us to execute here and now. It's one of those small projects or the transformation projects where it is a long-term growth outlook based projects where, there is a kind of a stepping back and see, are we in a position to embrace generative AI in these projects? And rightfully, they are stepping back and validating some of this before they actually go back, right? I would say that, look, backing up does not mean backing down.
Okay, it does not mean backing down. Let me turn the attention of our viewers towards another key element of the numbers. We've discussed the top line numbers, but in terms of wage hikes, what the data seems to suggest that it has affected margins by almost 200 basis points on a quarterly basis. Uh, how difficult has it been for the company to retain talent in this environment?
It's the talent demand for especially high performers and is quite good. I should say. So it's imperative that we retain them. And we have taken a lot of steps over the last several quarters in terms of a good employee engagement and so on and so on. And we felt that it is appropriate to give the wage increases effective 1st of April as we normally do, and also initiate promotions, etc., as appropriate, because these are all normal course of doing business. For us, employees are important, their well-being are important. There is a inflation that is also happening in India and in several markets. So it's only appropriate that we felt that, look, we complete all of this. The wage increase has to be normal. So for high performers, we have given anywhere between 12 to 15% as an increase, and the for top performers, it's about 12 to 15%. For high performers, it's about anywhere between 8 to 12% is what we have given. That covers roughly about 60 to 70% of our employees, with all the others really, going at an average about 6%, right? So that's bound to increase the wage, and typically that's our trend in the first quarter of the financial year. That wage increase is taken on board, so the margins dip, and then we claw back based on our efficiencies and newer projects that we execute in Q2 and Q3 and Q4.
What's the outlook for hiring? Some of the headlines, Mr. Subramaniam, which you might have also noticed, are focusing on the fact that net count additions are lower than the previous quarter, by 821 in the previous quarter, and now in the quarter being discussed, 523. There's another mention of deferrals of lateral hires. What's really happening on that front?
See, that also shows our agility, Siddharth. That way is that we have to adjust our costs and adjust our hiring plans based on the demand that we see in the marketplace. But having said that, look, we built a lot of capacity the previous financial year. Well, if you really look at last 8 quarters, I think enormous amount of capacity has been built. We've also focused on upskilling them. I think our utilization has still some cushion. So, our focus is going to be to improve the utilizations on the hand. And we also had a lot of subcontractors, if you will see, in the past based on the demand. And now we have in-house capacity, which means that, look, we will have to replace the subcontractors, which are typically temporary in nature, by our own workforce. And, it's about calibrating what we have and how we reacted to situations of market demand and where and when we need those resources.
Okay. Let's move back to the market focus that we mentioned briefly. In terms of driving future growth and expansion, what are you doing to strengthen those markets? Because in a scenario of weak demand, you also have to kind of double down on market expansion. What is happening on that?
See, we have a very well diversified portfolio of verticals as well as markets. We are present in both emerging and established markets. And, during this quarter, we take all the regional markets, they really performed well. So it's a typical diversification strategy. When one unit doesn't do that well because of a specific issue with respect to that unit, others kind of balance it for us, right? So the action for us is to really look at what are the areas of growth that we are seeing, and which is really, banking financial services continue to show demand because of if you look at $3.2 billion worth of deals that we have signed. Retail, and travel and hospitality segment is really doing well. Manufacturing is doing well. Life sciences and healthcare is doing well. So, I think, we have to really see how these verticals pan out and then look for opportunities which are there and then capture them and execute them well, which is what we have done in the current quarter. So in a tough market situation, I think we're happy that we could grow by 7% year on year, constant currency.
Give us some more insight into the number that you mentioned on deals. It's a big positive. The market is taken that well. A strong order book of over $10.2 billion dollars. Where is this going to come from? What kind of pricing is being looked at in this scenario?
The overall pricing has remained stable, Siddharth, across our customer base. We are not seeing any discussions or negotiations to reduce price, right? On the other hand, they've always asked us to see whether we could embrace newer technologies, and outcome projects have to be executed on time without much delays. And whatever we do, it has to be future-proof. I think that's the criteria. The deal value of 10.2 billion is about 5 billion comes from North America, which is again, continues to be strong for us. UK is doing really well. BFSI had 3.2 billion. Retail had about 1.2 billion. The only thing where, we are not doing that great is Europe. Europe as a market is a bit constrained at this point in time. There are a lot of things that they are dealing with. So we have to wait and see how Europe bounces back in the next 2 quarters, and that will change the equation tremendously for us.
On a longer term basis, your dependence, I won't use the word over dependence because the US is still the largest economy on the US market. Do you see it being offset, or will this scenario continue because of the way the EU is likely to perform in the near to medium term?
I think US will continue to do well, and especially US is investing heavily on innovation. They want to really work on the future of technology, like 2 nanometers and things like that. Semiconductor technology is something that they want to invest very heavily, and they also want to take the lead on the next G, which is the 6G technologies, and then there's a lot of effort that's going on in the North America. And I think there is a lot of discussion that's happening between India and North America to see how we can collaborate on critical and emerging technologies of the future. It means that, look, it should give us really a good base to collaborate with the innovators and large corporations in North America and us, right? I'll put it this way, right? Japan, likewise, is again looking at critical emerging technologies in a big way. So overall, I think there are markets that they are working on new technologies, and then that's going to be our future as well, right? But overall, I feel that Europe has to come back to the game, right? And it's nothing fundamentally wrong with the corporations there. I think the corporations are all doing well, but they're all conserving cash in the sense that, look, they're not sure at this point in time where things will go. And EU intervention is necessary, I feel. Yeah.
I also want you to talk about, if you can, on where the current sort of status is of the BSNL order. I was looking up the details. 15,000 crore, just to remind our viewers, and this is for the deployment of a 4G network across India, and you have other plans in the telecom space. Can you provide some color on that?
Yeah. No, the 10.2 billion does not include the BSNL deal, and BSNL deal has been awarded to TCS, TCS-led consortium, Siddharth. I think, and I'm happy to report that an advanced purchase order has been placed on this, and we are now working with our consortium partners to see how we can deliver a very differentiated 4G network and upgrade it to 5G network as quickly as possible. And we want to do it between, let's say, the next 12 to 15 months, if we can. And we are only constrained by the availability of electronic components and the supply chain related issues that we are facing. But we are working with all our partners to see that this next 12 to 15 months can be realized. At the same time, with BSNL, we are working on the whole network planning and see whether we can take the confirmed purchase orders for at a zonal and circle levels. Because ultimately, when we supply the equipment, we need to supply it to a particular circle in the zone and see how we can densify the rollout of 4G network and make it viable and make it differentiating for BSNL. These are very, very critical work that's going on with BSNL right now. And we hope that to commence our deliveries starting this quarter or early next quarters in terms of rolling out the different 100,000 sites that which BSNL has given us the responsibility to do so.
By when will you be recognizing the revenue? Because you said that it's not part of the order book. Could you just explain that?
Yeah, see, we have got the advanced purchase order, which means that it's really an intent to work with us. And then they have given that based on this, we have done some forward planning in terms of ordering the components that are required and then building our manufacturing capacity and then start to roll out the equipments that are required. We means not TCS, but our partners, right? And our job is to really see that these equipments are delivered on time to the locations in which they want it to be deployed. And then, get the network planning right? So currently, as a team that we are working with BSNL, in putting some of these things in place. And as we get the purchase orders at the zonal and circle level, we'll be able to account for it, we'll be able to recognize it, and as we deliver it, we'll be able to invoice them as well.
Okay, just a quick a couple of questions more. One, do you see any opportunities beyond the current one in telecom, also because of the government's focus on 6G? It's already been mentioned by the government and the communications minister several times. Do you see any further opportunities?
I think currently the market is about 4G and 5G, both in India as well as overseas. 6G, there is a lot of focus because 6G will actually come into play somewhere in 2028 to 30 timeframe. But innovations need to take place, patents have to come out, standards have to come out. The government of India is focused to take on encouraging the industry to take the lead in defining India's requirements for 6G and essentially to improve the coverage capacity and experience, and also play out with the overall digital vision for India. Now, how do we make this whole thing inclusive? How do we make it sustainable? How do we make it green? How do we make it secure and robust? The whole telecom network. It's clear that the telecom network will become the horizontal on which every single vertical will play out, right? So the government is keen that we take lead in defining the standards for 6G. So at this point in time, a lot of research and innovation, all that kind of work will happen as far as 6G is concerned. But the real opportunity to make money is to deliver differentiating equipments on 5G, and if they can be made to be, in a way that it is plug and play and it is upgradable to 6G by software, that will be a phenomenal achievement, which is what I think we are looking at along with our partners to see how we can groom that for India and for the rest of the world.
Absolutely, and there is, of course, the supply chain issues and the overall development of the electronics ecosystem in India, which is a key point. But I want to take one last question with you, which is in regard to innovation, since we are talking about that. And this is the recently launched generative AI business offering called TCS Generative AI Enterprise Adoption. Explain this to us because it's a new thing. May not be a very big part of the portfolio, but what's the intent here?
I think generative AI as a software is or a technology is very interesting. It has a lot of potential. I think consumers like you and me, we already start to use it, and we are amazed at the capability that and the potential it has. But then when you take some of these into an enterprise level, there are always constraints. There are always things that, what you can do with it and how you can do it with it, keeping in mind the overall cost involved, as well as make sure that the organizational competence and competitive advantage are always protected, right? There's one certain things that you want to keep it within the company, certain things that you want to export it in the public domain, right? So I think as we speak, the generative AI capability is being piloted, is being understood, and without jumping too much into it, but clearly see whether what is the kind of an architecture or a model in which that enterprises need to adopt and embrace generative AI, so that it protects the competitive advantage as well as enhances it over a period of time. At the same time, keep some of the non-competitive aspects of it, if it can be exposed to the larger good for the world. I think that's a balance that they are trying to figure out. All enterprises, all corporations are trying to figure out. The large tech companies are also working at it. And we as innovators and integrators, we are also looking at it from different angles to see how we can bring in such technology as a differentiating feature in our products and services, and at the same time stay relevant to our customers to that.
Okay. One last mention, Mr. Subramaniam, and this has really been discussed. The company has put out statements and clarifying this, but I just want you to kind of recollect it once more. The controversy that happened around some hiring related issues with certain external parties, if I may describe them, that the company worked with. What can you just sort of say for the record on that matter while we are having this conversation?
I'm glad that you're asking this question, Siddharth. I think the issue is not related to hiring. It is related to some of the subcontracting arrangement that we have with some of our subcontracting companies for people whom we onboard to projects on a temporary basis, right? Our processes are intact. There is absolutely no financial loss to the company or to our customers. The quality of services that we provide to our customers remained intact. There is absolutely no compromises have been made on any one of this. But having said that, look, there are certain, what we observed is um, there are certain employees of the company who are in charge of onboarding such resources from subcontracting companies have violated the company's code of conduct. So, and it is an ethical issue as opposed to a hiring scam, as it has been penned down in many areas, many media publications. Okay, so we have also happy that our processes are working. The whistleblower mechanism that we have put in place is working, and the whistleblower complaint was duly acted upon. And it's just that, look, it is taking time because these are, when such things of violations of code of conduct happens, it doesn't happen within our systems. It happens outside the system, and that takes time to collect, gather data, and also start interacting with each one of the organizations and individuals who have violated their undertaking on their ethical and code of conduct issues. So, as we have already mentioned, we have appointed an external firm in the US to go through it in detail. We have also done our own internal investigation, juxtaposing with them, and it will take its time, and we have taken appropriate actions as per our policies as we find evidences that corroborate the whistleblower complaint, right? So I just want to reiterate that we're happy our processes are working. We are happy that the whistleblower mechanisms have been dealt with as appropriate, and there is no financial impact or quality of products and services that we offer to ourselves, our company, as well as our clients.
All right, Mr. Subramaniam, thank you very much for that clarification and also for joining us to take us through the results and the outlook for the year. Many thanks once again for your time with us today. Viewers, with that, it's a wrap of this conversation with Mr. Subramaniam. We'll be back with more. Till then, goodbye.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.